welcome to Exploring Science with the Gazaways. I'm Mrs. Gazaway.
I'm Mr. Blake. We're so glad you're going to join us today. Hopefully you've had a really great day. We've got some clouds and it looks like it has a chance of rain, so hopefully it doesn't rain on us today. But we're excited you're here tuning in to us, watching our show today. If you're a returning visitor, we appreciate you coming back. If you're new to us, we hope you're ready to have some fun. Be sure and like our page, subscribe to it, all those good things. We appreciate the support.
Today we are going to talk about matter. Matter is one of my 5th graders' favorite topics. Matter is defined as anything that has mass and takes up space. Mass is just another fancy word for weight. So like this Coke bottle, it has mass or weight because it weighs something. If I put it on a scale, I could weigh it. And it is taking up space, not very much space, but it is still taking up space. Everything around us has matter, such as this tray, such as this beaker, and this graduated cylinder. There are 3 main states of matter: solids, liquids, and gases. A solid has a definite size and a definite shape, such as this box of cornstarch. It holds its shape. A liquid has a definite size and no shape, such as this water. You can pour it from the glass and it will take the shape of the beaker. You can take the water in the beaker and pour it into the graduated cylinder and it will take the shape of the graduated cylinder. Liquids take the shape of the container that it is in. We also have gases, which gases have no size and no shape, such as the air around us. It has no size and no shape. It can have a shape if you contain it in a container such as a balloon. Some things can change states of matter. These changes are physical changes. You can use water as an example. Water, when you get it out of the faucet or from a bottle, it is a liquid. If you freeze it, you turn it into a solid, such as ice. We can take the ice and rub it a little bit and get it a little bit warm, and then it can change from a solid into a, that's right, liquid. Also, if we take a pan of water and we put it on the stove and we boil it for a while, but not too long, if you boil it for a while, you will release a gas known as water vapor. So our liquid water turned from a liquid to a solid, then back to a liquid, then into a gas. I'm going to use this pop bottle to demonstrate the 3 states of matter. The outside of the bottle is you're right, solid, because it keeps its shape. The liquid, the soda or pop inside is a liquid. That's right, because it takes the form or the shape of the pop bottle. You can also demonstrate a gas by carefully shaking it up, and then you can open the cap.
And parents, kids rather, do not do this in the house.
Make sure you have some goggles or something. Alright, so now we gotta clean up a little bit. But that's fine. Science is messy. Make sure you do that outside, please.
Hopefully you had your lab coats on from last time.
This pop bottle represented a solid, a liquid, and as you saw, a really fun gas. We are going to make a mixture of 2 ingredients. We will find out if this mixture is a liquid or a solid.
So today, our fun project we're going to do is we're going to make Oobleck. Now this gets its name from the book by Dr. Seuss, Bartholomew and the Oobleck. It's a great book. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I highly recommend it. It is one that I enjoyed reading as a kid and now we enjoy reading to our daughter.
For this experiment, you will need a plastic baggie. If you do not have a plastic baggie, bowls would work just fine, but it's a lot less messy if you have a baggie. You will need some water, food coloring, which is optional. You can have just regular plain Oobleck if you do not have food coloring. You will need some sort of measuring cup, so you could use measuring cups, or if at home if you have a graduated cylinder or a beaker, you can use those, which is what we use in science. You also need cornstarch, and that is all you need to make your Oobleck. Our first step is to pour 100 milliliters of cornstarch into our baggie. If you do not have a beaker at home to measure 100 milliliters of water, that equals to about half a cup. So Mr. Blake is going to open up the cornstarch and pour in 100 milliliters of cornstarch, or about half a cup.
Sometimes it's a good idea too. We have a little tray here that we're using. It's a good idea to use that because you can see I am not being very...
Yeah, make sure
I'm making a pretty big mess here. Oh, I just... Perfect.
And this is why we're outside. All right, now Mr. Blake is going to measure out 60 milliliters of water using a graduated cylinder, or you can use 1/4 of a cup. Whichever one you have or whichever one you prefer. In my science class, we use beakers and graduated cylinders because we measure our materials in milliliters. So he's going to go ahead and make another one. Again, that is 100 milliliters or 1/2 cup of cornstarch, 60 milliliters of water or 1/4 cup of water. You can now add 3 or 4 maybe drops of food coloring, whichever kind you would like.
As Mrs. Gazaway said, these are optional. We looked in our pantry and we had blue, yellow, and red. Which color would you
Red,
like?
please.
How many drops?
3 or 4. Once you get the food coloring in, you go ahead and zip your bag first. If you don't have a bag, you can do this in a bowl. Use a spoon to stir it. But if you do it in a baggie, you can just mix it together like so. Okay, and then this is the really tricky part. Sometimes it's too much cornstarch. Sometimes it's a little bit less cornstarch. It's hard to get the perfect mixture. So all you have to do is mix it together really well. And then if you touch it lightly, it feels like water. So if you touch it really lightly and it's still kind of hard, that means you need a little bit more water. So I think mine is kind of more of a solid, so it needs a little bit more water. So you just add a little bit more water if you need to.
I think mine also needs a little more water.
So maybe he spilled out some of our cornstarch, but that's okay. Okay, and then mine's getting a little better. If you touch it like that, barely touch it, you can kind of squeeze it. And then if you hit it really hard, like squeeze it between your hands really hard, it turns into a solid and you can't squeeze your fingers together. So if you squeeze your fingers together like that, it's like a liquid, and then you can put it together like a solid.
So, and you can tell on the color that I have, I mixed blue and yellow together to make green. And as Mrs. Gazaway said, you kind of got to work with it just a little bit to get it all shook up, because you can see that down here in this corner is very much a liquid. But if I take and I go trying to mix it up, it gets pretty hard and pretty solid as it changes its density here.
Yeah, and just playing with it, and like I said, you might have too much cornstarch, you might have too much water. It just depends. If it's too liquidy, add cornstarch. If it's too hard, add a little bit more water. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour some in my hands because this is so cool to play with.
I'll add just a touch more cornstarch to mine.
I think I need some too. Yeah, if you like reach in, I feel like mine's like really liquidy. I think mine needs a little more cornstarch too. Just a little though. So I said this is kind of an investigation. You have to kind of figure out which consistency works really well for your oobleck. Okay, when you take it out of the bag, make sure to like hit it really hard so that it turns into a solid. Then when you hold it flat in your hand, it'll be a little liquidy. So if I hold it flat, it becomes liquid. If I squeeze it harder together, it becomes a solid. See? Then I let it flatten in my hands, and it's liquefying. Then I push on it, and it is hardening.
So you can see on mine that if I keep working it, I can make a pretty good ball. There's a few pieces falling off of it, but pretty good enough that it makes a good ball. But the second I stop, it becomes a liquid again and runs right through my hands. Another thing to think about too is kids, while you're doing this, it is a fun project, but as we said, make sure you get mom and dad's permission before you do some of this stuff. It's always good to put something down on the counter or on the table before you do it, as I made a little bit of a mess here. But also make sure that you're staying over the table. If you have carpet where you're doing this, you definitely do not want to get oobleck in your carpet.
Yeah, and like I said, for younger kids, this would be a great idea to just keep it in the bag. Okay, my students that we made this in chemistry, we never had a chance to get it out of the bag. But do you see why we put it in a bag? Because it can get everywhere. So if you make this, I suggest you go outside and enjoy the nice fresh air and make it outside and do it over something that's not going to make a big mess. All right, have you figured out whether your oobleck is a solid or a liquid? I did give several hints while I was discussing this. Oobleck is actually known as an unusual material that can act like multiple states.
And that's a very interesting thing that make oobleck unique, because it's actually what we call a non-Newtonian liquid. So a non-Newtonian liquid flows at different rates, while regular liquids and regular fluids flow at a steady rate. So such as the water, when you pour the water, no matter where you're pouring it, it pours at the same rate and at the same flow every time. But with this, as you get the particles excited and you spread it around, like we said, it makes a solid. But then as we stop, then it makes the liquid again and runs right through your hands onto your table. So as we said, this is a non-Newtonian liquid. So that's your new word of the day, and your new phrase to use is non-Newtonian liquid.
I think Alyssa is going to come over and play with some. Do you want to play with some oobleck?
Yeah!
Come here, it's so much fun.
Don't have any shoes on.
Don't mind her, she just woke up
this-
again. We like to do this during nap time.
Science
I
is
don't have any shoes.
science.
It's okay, look.
Science is
Look,
shoe
look, here.
optional.
Put your hands in.
Science is shoe
Okay, ready?
optional.
Hold them. And look, ew, it's draining. Now smush it together. Is that cool?
Wow.
So here's another example too from the tray that picked up actually a little bit more cornstarch. Clean up my mess just a hair here. You can see that now I do have a pretty good
Look, now
ball.
mash
Can
it
make a
together.
pretty good ball.
Ain't that cool?
Go get some more.
I'm
And
really
then once
glad
we stop, it goes back to a liquid.
I'm really glad we are doing this outside. Well, that about wraps it up for us today.
Thanks for watching. If you're new to our page, be sure and subscribe to it, share the video, like it, and we appreciate you tuning in.
Wow, let's play with this less oobleck.
All right, sounds like we are going to keep playing with this oobleck. But until next time on Exploring Science with the Gazaways, bye.
See ya.
I'm having so much fun playing
You
with
are, isn't it amazing?
Wow.
Science Explorers, as we were playing with our oobleck after we turned off the camera, we realized one important thing that we forgot to tell you.
We forgot to talk about cleanup. Cleanup is actually pretty simple, so parents, don't freak out about that big old mess that we made. Like we suggested, do it outside. It's wonderful weather most days. To clean up our table, all we did was use a garden hose and sprayed just with water. That's all you need for cleanup is water. If you're inside and at a table, soak some paper towels up with water and then wipe them across your table or wipe them on your floor. I do not recommend to do this on carpet because I honestly don't know if it comes out of carpet or not because I've not done it on carpet. So do it outside or in with tile or something that does not stain.
And to get it off your hands is pretty simple too.
All you have to do is you can either dump your hands in a bucket full of water or have someone turn the sink on for you and just wash them off. The only thing that stayed behind on my hands was the red food coloring, so keep that in mind when using food coloring.
So we appreciate you guys watching today. As I said before, be sure and subscribe to our page, like it, share it, have some fun with it. We look forward to seeing the oobleck that you guys make, so be sure and send us pictures and tell us what you're doing and the fun you're having. So until we talk to you next time, it's been a pleasure exploring science with the Gazaways today. Bye.
Bye.